Well, good morning, my algebra people. Today we are looking at completing the square part 2, right? And this is 8-8 part 2. Sorry about the messy handwriting. Right? 8-8 part 2. So we are looking at completing the square, and I know I can complete the square on this because there's an x squared value and an x value, which means I can't just use roots to solve it, right? Because I cannot square root that middle term. So I'm going to go ahead and move this over, and first I have to get rid of the a value. Notice that there's a 2 in front of the x squared. So first I'm going to simplify this equation, just dividing off the 2, because I can divide everything by 2. Or greatest common factor, right? We always want to use our GCFs. They're like one of our best friends. Now we can complete the square, right? And this looks a little easier to complete this square. I'm going to cut -10 in half and get -5, and -5 squared is 25. And I add that to both sides because it's an equation. So what I do to one side of the equation, I do to the other. And then because I made this perfect trinomial square, I can factor it, right? I know it's going to be x minus 5 squared, right? Because I made this. And 25 and 24 is 49. I'm sure you're already seeing the pattern here where you can square root both sides. And then we get x minus 5 equals plus or minus 7. Remember, because the square root of 49 could be 7 times 7 or -7 times -7. So we need to solve for both options. We can have x minus 5 equals 7 or x minus 5 equals -7. Then we have to solve for x, getting our x equals 12 and -2, right? And now we have 2 of our 3 points necessary to graph this quadratic. So again, we're still just learning a lot of skill sets that we need in order to practice getting to graphing that we'll be doing pretty soon here. So again, I'm just going to move over a little bit of space so I can complete my square. I cut 2 in half and square that, getting 1. And I add 1 to both sides. I made this perfect trinomial, so I know what it is. It's x plus 1 squared, and that now equals 22. Already you're probably seeing that when you go to square root that, it is not even, right? And in fact, there's nothing even in here that I can root out. So I'm going to get x plus 1 equals the plus or minus the square root of 22. And then I can solve just subtracting 1 from both sides. This is an acceptable answer, right? This is an acceptable answer if I'm asked to solve for the x values. But if I want to graph it, I'm going to need to go a little farther. And I would use my calculator to solve for the square root of 22. And I would get that that is 4.7. So then I would have to add -1 to positive 4.7 and add -1 to negative 4.7. And my decimals would be 3.7 and -5.7. So let's take another one. Let's try this one. Let's go ahead and complete our square on this. Cut 6 in half and I get 3, and 3 squared is 9. And then I have -12 and 9 is -3. Now, if I'm going to go ahead and solve by completing the square, if I go to square root this, I say, oh, there are no real solutions, right? No real solutions. But that reminds us to look at our concept that we'll see in Algebra 2, where the square root of -1 is the letter I. So I would know that this would be, I could factor out the -1, and I would have I square root 3. And then I would have to add 3 to both sides, right? And that's how I'd get the 3 plus or minus I square root 3. But again, this is in Algebra 2. You don't need to know that for Algebra 1. For Algebra 1, we need to know that it's no real solutions because this is imaginary. Yep, imaginary numbers coming our way. All right, go ahead and try this one and check your solutions. So I'm going to go ahead and make room to complete my square, adding the 2 to both sides. Then I cut -4 in half and square that, and I add 4 to both sides. Then I have my perfect trinomial that I created of x minus 2 squared equals the square root of 6. And the square root of 6, if I were to solve for that, now this is an acceptable answer. I can just have 2 plus or minus the square root of 6, or I could go ahead and square root 6, which is 2.4, and then I would add that and subtract that to 2. All right, today in part 2, we're going to be doing 22 through 32, 47, 50 through 58, 60 through 66, and 72 in your textbook, right? Textbook today, show your work on paper, and next time we'll have a quiz reviewing everything that we've done, and we will derive the quadratic formula. Talk to you later.